because I think the marketing funnel is dead. And I think actually in 2026, we as business owners and in the wedding industry are living in the age of what I'm calling the marketing theme park. Now, hear me out. I feel like we're not living in a funnel world anymore. It's a theme park. It is noisy. It is overwhelming. There are flashing lights. You have people trying to be the biggest and trying to be the best and trying to be the newest and trying to be the fastest. We're trying to stand out. When people go into a theme park, they enter in the front door and then they scatter and go in 100 different directions.
Hey everybody, this is Eddie Babbage, founder, CEO of Timeline Genius, your host here of the Wedding Industry Insider Podcast, back with another amazing episode for you. I am here with Becca Pountney. She's the UK's leading wedding industry marketing expert. She's also the host of an award-winning podcast called Wedding Pros Who Are Ready to Grow. And Becca is the author of a book, and I love this title, Done is Better Than Perfect, Building a Profitable Wedding Business. Becca, such an honor to have you on the show. Thank you for taking time to be here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
So even though I just gave a quick intro, what I always invite our guests to do is to kind of give your own overview of your background. But I want to just also tell people why they should stick around here, what you and I are going to be talking about. And I think they can probably anticipate where this is going given your background. But we're going to dive into marketing, which I feel like is just a profoundly important topic if people want to be in business and not go out of business. You got to get new customers. But before we get into the marketing juicy stuff, Becca, in your own words, tell us how you got to be where you currently are in the industry.
Fantastic. So I'm going to take you back a little way to when I first started out in the world of work. And my background's actually in television and radio marketing. So I worked in television production companies, I worked in national radio companies, and I did their marketing. And then what often happens, especially as a female, is I decided to have a child, and that changed my world dramatically back in 2013. And I decided while I was on my leave with the baby that I would set up my own business so I could kind of take a step away from that full-time role. And I actually set up as a wedding videographer because that's my background, television and radio. And that was my first step into the wedding industry. But I did it differently because I had this baby at home. I knew I couldn't go out and be at all the weddings. And it was back before all our phones were super techy as they are now. And I used to send physical cameras in the post to people. They'd get their friends and family to pick up the camcorder and film their wedding. They'd ship it back to me. And then in the late nights when my baby was asleep, I'd edit the video together. So that was my background into the wedding industry. Then a decade ago, so 2016, my husband's job moved and we moved from one part of the UK to another. And so I lost my wedding business network and had to start up again in a new place. And so I knew networking was important. I started a local networking group for other wedding industry professionals. And I just said, hey, does anyone want to get together? Lots of people did. And so I went from knowing nobody in my new area to 30 people coming that first day. And inevitably, with what I do, is I was talking to these business owners at the networking about my videography, but because of my marketing background and knowledge, all the time I was helping them with those things as well. I would start to talk to them about their websites and what I knew from the background in marketing. Then they said, do you want to set up like a little workshop one day where we can all learn about social media? Anyway, that happened. A decade later, I find myself here. The videography business was shut down. I now teach and speak and write and podcast on wedding business marketing all over the world. And as I say, the rest is history.
That is so cool, Becca. Yeah, so much there to unpack. What do you love about what you do?
What I love about what I do is seeing someone who's just starting out in a business. They're such a creative. They've got so much talent. You know, they can make an amazing cake. They can plan an amazing wedding, but they don't necessarily understand the business side of things. And when I can give someone something and make it easy for them to understand, not give them big words, and help them become more visible and then see their success. And as I say, I love it when a bird flies the nest. So when someone doesn't need me anymore, not because they don't like what I do, but because they're too successful, nothing brings me more joy.
That is so cool, Becca. You know, it's funny. I'm going to give a little context here. And the people that are listening that have been, regular members of our audience for a while have probably already heard me say this, but I have I've done this whole personal journey where at this point in my life, I just never get tired of talking about marketing. I have endless appreciation for how impactful and necessary marketing is if you're going to be in business and stay in business. But the funny thing is, if you rewind the clock, I've always been into entrepreneurship. But there was a time when I was like, marketing, schmarketing, it's just people like, there's not much to it. I mean, just go out and tell people if you got a good product, then that's everything. Learning finance, yeah, those are hard skills you got to like. But I almost had this disdain is probably too strong of a word, but a really diminished appreciation for marketing. But at this point, having built three companies, I'm like, you got to understand marketing. And it's not just, pure common sense. Like there's substance and there are things to learn, which is why, again, giving full context, I always love having people like you on our show. Let me ask you this. What drew you to marketing as a way to help people? Like, what is it that kind of drew you to marketing?
I think I love that it makes an impact. I think so often we forget that actually a business needs to tell someone that they exist if they want to be successful. And when I wanted to get into television way back, everyone around me said that's really hard. It's a career that no one can have. And I realized even young, when I was 16, 17, 18, I need to market myself in order to get in the door of TV. You can do anything in the world, but you've got to know the right people and understand the right messaging. And so from a young age, that's been my mindset, that you can't just wait for stuff to come to you. You
Mm,
have to make stuff happen. And that's exactly what marketing is, right? You can't expect someone else to say you're amazing. You have to learn to tell
mm,
everyone how
mm.
amazing your product and service is. And it's crucial throughout. So I used to use a slide in one of my presentations that showed the Coca-Cola advertising spend on average over a year. And I would say to people, like, how many people in this room knows this product? 100% of people raise their hand. And then I would say, does it surprise you that they still spend X billion pounds on advertising and marketing every year? And they're like,
Mm.
yes. Like, well, that's why everyone knows who they are, because they don't slip away, they don't get
Man.
successful and stop, they keep on going.
Becca, no, that is just, I mean, really profound what you're saying. And again, sometimes profundity comes to us, and people can be like, "Oh, I've heard that before." Like, no, really, pay attention to what you just said because there's so much there, and it makes me think about in my own. I'll be, open, transparent, vulnerable here. It makes so much sense, but I almost am envious of people like you that just naturally, instinctively get into that mode because me, and I think I'm probably similar to some people that are listening, probably a lot given the personality of wedding planners. They kind of don't want to be out there tooting their own horn. They kind of feel self-conscious like, look, I'm amazing. Hopefully somebody that I worked with tells you and you come to me, but I feel a little self-conscious if I'm out there saying, "Hey, I'm the greatest, come hire me." Like, can you speak a little bit to the mindset of being willing to get out there and to do the promotion that nobody else is going to ultimately do for you?
Okay, I'm going to tell you another story because I learned the biggest lesson in this area in terms of self confidence from my daughter. And she, at the time, was 8. She's now 9. And I think out of the mouths of children often comes big wisdom. Now, she's really
Mm,
into soccer. Okay, she's a huge soccer fan. And she had a dream that she wants to play for a big soccer team here in England. And the biggest one that's near to our house is Arsenal. Now, some of you may or may not know what that is, but it's a huge soccer team here in the UK. And she said to me, I want to go play for Arsenal. I'm going to do what it takes to play for Arsenal. And because I'm her mum, I'm like, you could do anything you want, child. Anyway, she went to the trials for Arsenal. She managed to get scouted. She went to a trial for Arsenal. And we went to the trial. And I said to her, because I'm a good mum, like, this is going to be hard. Don't get your hopes up. You probably won't get in. The chances are very small, but just go and enjoy the experience. And she said this to me, and this is what's profound. She said, if I don't believe I'm good enough to get in, mum, why will they? Now,
just got goosebumps.
long story short, she got in. She went through 2 trials. She's now playing for Arsenal under nines on a year contract. It's incredible, and she achieved a lot. But what she said in that moment spoke to me so deeply on a level that I think a lot of wedding business owners need to hear. Because if you don't believe you're good enough, why should your couples pay the amount of money that they're going to pay for the wedding day? So you got to take a look for a moment and realize sometimes it's not showing off, it's not egotistical, it's just having confidence in your ability and experience, and then other people can believe in that and buy into it.
Well, I very sincerely got goosebumps when you said that, Becca. I think, and it really does start to show. Profound is the right word, profundity, right word, because this is really deep, right? Like your business success is ultimately tied, connected, rooted in something deep inside you, like your belief about like, am I worthy? Am I legit? Right? Um, and it's funny. I use ChatGPT as a pseudo therapist, business strategist, everything. I found myself engaged in a dialogue yesterday where I'm like, okay, there are these new ambitions and goals that we have, coming into the new year for the company, and I was like, but I don't know if this is too audacious and not even realistic. And ChatGPT actually helped kind of talk me into like, wait a minute, no, like this is a limiting self belief. Like, objectively speaking, it's totally feasible, realistic. But if you don't believe something can happen or that you're worthy, you're damn sure going to be hobbled in terms of making it happen. Like, what do you tell people? Because we talked a little bit about imposter syndrome and self-limiting beliefs, like kind of in the pre-interview. What are your sort of thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's understanding. Yes, we need to be realistic, right? And we do lose that inner confidence that we have when we're 8 or 9, but it's trying to re-find that again. One of the exercises I get my clients to do when they're feeling this way about marketing is I say, just take a piece of paper and write down like all the great stuff you can do, what makes you
Mm,
better than your competitors, the
mm,
experience you've had in previous careers that makes you different from everyone else, and keep reading that list,
mm,
and then start to talk about those things in conversation, and then start to include them in your marketing, and then add them to your Instagram bio, because they're not lies. I think we get the imposter syndrome because we're scared that we're not that person that we're saying we are. But if we've
mm,
grounded it in the facts in front of us, then
mm-hmm,
why shouldn't we? Even, as you introduced me, we said Becca's known as the UK's leading wedding industry marketing expert. And
mm-hmm,
about 2 years ago, a coach I was working with encouraged me to change that on my Instagram bio and to write that line. And at
mm,
the time, I was like, I can't do that. And I actually shared with a group of my members about the fact that he'd said to do that. And they all came back and said to me, well, who else is doing better than you? Who else has written a book on marketing in
wow,
the UK? And suddenly,
wow,
from my own audience, they're saying, no, you should do that. And so I did
wow,
change it. And
wow.
actually, as long as it's grounded in fact, it shouldn't be an imposter syndrome thing if you're not making it up. So write that list, write down that experience, because everyone has something unique to bring. But yes, we need to be realistic. Yes, we need to be grounded in truth and be humble, but actually we can still shout about what we can do well.
Becca, I'm going to go into marketing more specifically, but I can't resist this last little nugget that you're kind of handing out here around just like kind of mindset, which is hearing you talk about like this title that you strategically adopted for yourself. It's like oftentimes there is no objective 2 plus 2 equals 4 reality. There's just this story, and you don't want to create the story that, hey, I'm a purple cow. Like, no, you're a human being. Like, right? Don't be, there are facts in this world, but so much of what's really driving our success in marketing and business is more of a subjective, either intentionally or unintentionally chosen narrative that we have in our own minds about who and what we are, and that we in turn project out into the world. So why not be intentional and bold and choose the narrative that's going to support your success, Um, yeah, I don't know. Does that resonate with you? It's kind of where your
Yeah,
comments were taking me. Um,
absolutely. And I think ask your peers, ask people that know you, ask your previous customers, look at your reviews. We talked about
yeah.
ChatGPT. Stick all of your reviews into ChatGPT and ask it to tell you about how great you are. And all of a sudden, again, based on fact, it will replay to you your experience, the things that you're good at. And going back to the first story, if you don't believe you're good at those things, why should your couples? If you don't
Mm.
believe you're the best photographer, the best planner, the best person to work at this venue, well, then you might as well give them someone else's card, because you are probably the best person because of the lived experience you've had. And you've got to show that authentically.
I always say, Becca, or I've said many times in past interviews, I wish I had one of those sounds like in the club when the beat like drops. It's like, "Dur, dur, dur, dur," like when it gets out on the podcast and we're dropping knowledge bombs here. So I'm gonna tee up the marketing discussion, Becca, with a question that I love, which is if I came to you, let's say we were together here in New York City, and I told you, Becca, I've been doing this wedding planning thing for, 4 or 5 years, and I love it. And I don't mean to brag, but I'm really good at planning weddings, Becca. It's my passion. It's what lights me up. I'm great at it. The logistics, my weddings are amazing. But if I'm honest, I feel like my business is beating me up a little bit. I feel like I'm not making as much money as I want to be making. Definitely not the profit that I thought I would be making. I'm a little worried, Becca. Like you might look at the fact that I did 20 weddings this year and just say, oh, wow, you got this. But I'll be honest, Becca, I'm a little worried that maybe I won't get the 20 weddings next year. Where would you steer the conversation if we only had, an hour for lunch? Where would you steer the conversation to start to help me as much as you could?
So I would peel back all the layers to get to the heart of the problem, because often there's a heart somewhere and we need to understand where the issue is. So my first questions would be, okay, let's go through the process. What's the actual problem? Is it, where are you losing these customers? Is it that you're getting on calls with people and then you're losing them? Because that's a sales problem. Is it that they're coming into your inbox and then they're ghosting you? Okay, there's a communication problem. Is it that you're everywhere on social media, every directory, you're marketing hard, but you're never getting any inquiries? Okay, well, that's another problem entirely. That means your marketing isn't resonating. People don't know what to do next. Or is it just so dead out there that no one knows that you exist, and actually you're not spending any marketing dollars and you're expecting people to know you exist? Because that's a marketing problem. So I would first digest where the actual problem is, because it's so different and so nuanced for everyone. And then it goes as far as, okay, well, are you being a busy fool? Are you actually taking the bookings but not earning enough because you haven't taken the time to look at the numbers? Right. Do we need to review that? Do we need to look at how you can actually be profitable and then work out where to spend and how much to spend on marketing or whatever area to make that happen? Because so many people in the wedding industry, and that's why I love this industry, they start because they love weddings. They're passionate. They've got an idea. They got married themselves and they don't necessarily have that business acumen. And that's fine. But you get to a certain point where you have to sit down and take your head out of the sand and look at the details. And it's the boring bit. Let's be honest, it's not exciting to look at data, but it's crucial for long-term success.
I love that, Becca. And I'm going to tease out this hypo just a little bit more and say, and I'm channeling, Becca, like a decade plus of just various conversations with wedding planners. So I can't give obviously an exact, this is kind of like a composite hypothetical. Most planners that I talk to, they say, if I can get somebody to a meeting with me, I'm pretty good at the sales piece of it because there I can be myself, I can be authentic. I've got a body of work and all of those things. I'm thinking more about a scenario where I'm like, okay, we're talking about marketing. I don't really even have, this is just between me and you, a marketing plan, Becca. Like, I don't even have one. I'm just kind of running and gunning. My hair's on fire. I'm planning weddings. That in and of itself is a constant, stream of stress and work. And I get a lot of people that, because I'm good at what I do, I get word of mouth referrals. That's where a lot of my business comes from. But I kind of feel like I've got this scattered sort of thing. I do post occasionally on social, obviously, but like I feel like there's no cohesive, predictable marketing machine that is bringing me new clients.
Okay, so one thing to note straight away is that there's no golden bullet. So there is no
Mm,
like, here's the secret to making six
mm-hmm,
billion pounds or dollars from your
mm-hmm,
wedding industry
mm-hmm.
business, because the state of our industry is that things do come from all different places. And because we're constantly having to market to new people rather than getting repeat referrals, it is difficult for us to have that common chain. And so if you are someone that's getting lots of referrals into the business, that's great. So if you're unsure where to spend your time in your marketing, first of all, I would look at the client and I would say, right, let's look at your strengths and let's also look at who you want to target and where they're hanging out. So what does your ideal couple look like? Where are they spending their time? Are they at particular wedding fairs or wedding showcases? Are they on Google searching for you? Are they heavy on the TikTok? Like, where are they? And if you don't know the answer to those questions, put some work into finding that out. Even if it's speaking to past couples or friends that have got married that you see are in your ideal client market, or putting some money towards it and doing some market research on that. Like, find out the information, because that's going to tell you more than guessing in the dark. And once you have that information, then let's start by looking at maybe 3 different pillars of marketing and go hard on those. So if we know that Google is a place, let's spend a lot of time on our website and our SEO. If we know that they're hanging out on TikTok, well, let's get some education on how to do good social media marketing and go for that. If we know they like in person and we as a person are good face to face, I have clients that just do back to back to back in person wedding shows, and it's very successful for them. So there's no one size fits all. You've got to work out where your skills lie and where your clients are hanging out. And then you've got to go all in, because if you just do a bit of it, it's not going to work properly. Now, another caveat, if you've been in this business a long time, one of the other things I say is look back at what's worked for you and where your inquiries have come from for the last 2 years. Let's not like throw the baby out with the bathwater, because sometimes we want to do the shiny new thing. But actually, when we look at the data, we realize, oh, that directory we love to hate actually bought us X amount of money last year. Actually, most of our money came from this one venue. So what we need to do is double down on our relationship with them so we don't lose that. So don't just think you need to do the new shiny thing. If something's working for you well, do more of it.
That is really interesting. I always feel like I get so much benefit. I'm a conduit in a lot of senses for information flowing from a guest like you to the beloved members of our audience. But as it passes through me, I get so much out of it. Like just hearing you say that, it's so true. And I don't know if you see this in people that you work with, but there's this tendency to say, well, I've been doing this and this is kind of played out. I need to do something new. When you hear people such as yourself say, wait a minute, just because you've done it a number of times doesn't mean that your market is tired of you. If it keeps working, then keep doing it. Like, how do you feel about that? Do you feel like people are too quick to kind of cut out things that have been working?
I think sometimes, like I say, people are looking for a magic bullet, something that's going to make everything easier for them. And actually, it doesn't always exist. And why would you stop doing something if it's bringing you revenue? Now,
Right,
if you notice that there's a problem in an area, so maybe something
right.
that was working for you 3 years ago isn't, well, then that's
Yeah,
another red flag. That's a signal to either stop doing it or change it. You know, again, we're not going to go deep into this area, but one of the things a lot of clients bring up to me is paid directories. And some people hate them, some people love them, and you have to look at it in your own unique situation. But I always say, why are you not reviewing that like every quarter? Why are you waiting till your subscription's up and then saying, nah, it didn't work for me? If you're
yeah.
paying someone for a service of any kind, like review it every month or every quarter and go back and say, this isn't working, because it's in everyone's interest for it to work. Everyone actually is on the same page. No one wants you to pay for a service that does nothing. But don't just leave it to play out without reviewing it regularly, because it could be a small tweak or a small change could get you the results that you desire.
I love that. I'm going to jump around here a little bit, Becca. And I knew this just from the pre interview. I told you, I was like, I'm going to be organic here. You've got so much experience and so many things to talk about. I'm like a kid in a candy store. I want to talk about your book for a minute because I love the title. Done is better than perfect. Building profitable wedding business. Like, tell me about why did you write the book and what's it about?
Okay, so the story about why I wrote the book. So I speak on a lot of stages, and just a year before the book came out, I was speaking on a stage here in the UK. And as I walked off the stage, this lady came up to me, and I wish I remembered who she was. And she said, "Hey, Becca, where can I buy your book?" And I just looked at her straight in the eye and went, I don't have a book. And she said, you should do. And you know, when something happens in a moment and you just keep
Yeah,
thinking about it, and it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
maybe I should do. So anyway, I then said to myself, I'm a very like I need a goal. So I said to myself going into 2024, right, I'm gonna write a book, and when I stand at Wedding MBA in Las Vegas, I'm gonna have that book in my hand and show it to everyone. And
I
I'm
love
also
it.
gonna tell my audience that's gonna happen. So I have the accountability that I
Ooh,
gotta make the book happen, which is a crazy thing to do, but also a really helpful thing to do if you're someone like me that procrastinates or talks yourself out of things. Because the shame of everyone being like, what happened to that goal for me is
right.
bigger than the shame of it being rubbish. So that was the goal. But I also knew if I wrote a book, I wanted it to be good and I wanted it to be high quality and all the rest of the things. So my idea for the book was basically if you wanted to understand your marketing, but you didn't have a lot of budget, that you could get everything you needed to get
Mm,
started and get going in a
mm,
book. So I literally talk you through in this book everything from branding, mindset, sales, marketing, money, everything, so that if you are new and you say like I can't afford to go to a conference, I can't afford to work with someone one to one, I say, well, you can afford like less than $20 to buy this
mm,
book, and then at least
mm,
you've got a starting point. So that's kind of where it was going. In terms of the title, Done is Better Than Perfect, that came partway through writing the book because that's something I say a lot anyway. I just say, just
mm,
get it done. Done is better than
mm,
perfect. Take messy action. And
mm,
also because I had my own imposter syndrome about writing a book. I was like, well, if I call it
mm,
Done is Better Than Perfect and then
mm.
anyone finds a typo or says, this bit wasn't great, I could go, well, at least I did it. It's done, whether or not it's perfect. So I kind of looked after number one in the title as well.
I it's funny. I feel like I subconsciously kind of connected that in some weird way, but it's cool because if you knowing now exactly what the book is about almost makes the title cooler to me because on its face it's not actually telling you that, but it's almost like on some deeper meta level being like this is the deal, like which everybody wants to build, like that has a wedding business. I'm assuming they want to have a profitable business, and the value proposition that you just explained, like who it's for and the role that it serves, just deeply resonates with me. And obviously goes beyond the scope of what we could do in an hour. And where do people go to buy this book, Becca?
It's on Amazon. That's the easiest place to get it. Love to hate it again, the big brand, but especially if you're in the US, the easiest place to go is Amazon.com, and you can find it by searching my name. You can buy it from my website if you want a signed copy, but the shipping fees are going to be a whole lot more than Amazon.
I'm going to get your book today. So you'll get probably more once this actually airs, but you will get one more sale today. That is super cool. And like I said, I'm just like really interested in marketing, especially the notion of like just the streamlined, simplified, like these are the X's and O's. Okay, so covered the book a little bit. We may come back to that because I mean, we could do 3 interviews just on the content from your book. You also said something to me, and I don't know if you said a couple things, and I don't know if these are related or separate ideas, but you mentioned provocatively, I think, that funnels are dead. And you also talked about how you're very excited about new marketing, like the state of marketing today. Can you talk about those two things? Are they separate? Are they kind of one and the same, or what?
I'd love to talk about them. I think they are definitely combined. So
Okay.
it is a bit provocative, but also I think it's quite truthful. So I've started saying on stage over the last year, the marketing funnel is dead. So,
Mm,
if you've done any marketing, if you've done a degree, if you've done a class at business school, if you've been to a conference, you hear people a lot talking about the marketing funnel. So I thought I'm going to deep dive a little bit, only a little bit, into the marketing funnel. Guess when the marketing funnel concept was invented?
I have no idea. This is interesting.
1904.
What?
So I started thinking, how are we living a life and teaching a marketing concept that was first thought about over 100 years ago when there wasn't even a TV, let alone social media, right? So that was the
Mm,
starting point. At the same time as kind of having these thoughts, I also saw a presentation from Google, and they were talking about how the marketing funnel has kind of become a messy middle. It's no longer a marketing funnel. So I took those two thoughts and I came up with my own concept, which I'm going to share with you. I've been sharing it on stage because I think the marketing funnel is dead. And I think actually in 2026, we as business owners and in the wedding industry are living in the age of what I'm calling the marketing theme park. Now, hear me out. I feel like we're not living in a funnel world anymore. It's a theme park. It is noisy. It is overwhelming. There are flashing lights. You have people trying to be the biggest and trying to be the best and trying to be the newest and trying to be the fastest. We're trying to stand out. When people go into a theme park, they enter in the front door and then they scatter and go in 100 different directions. That's what's happening in marketing right now. There is no clear funnel from someone finding you to someone booking you. They will go on Instagram. They will come via your website. They'll go on TikTok and then look at your reviews on Google and then contact you via text message. It is crazy out there and it's all over the place. And so what I'm saying is you got to understand we're living in a marketing theme park world. Attention is short. People want price transparency. There's so many elements to it, but you need to realize we're not living in this funnel where we can watch a TV ad in 1980 for a pair of trainers, then we tell our mum we go to the store and buy them. Like we might see 27 TikTok videos about those trainers and then go and buy them from TikTok shop, or we might go and buy them from Amazon, or we may buy them secondhand from Vinted. Like there's so many options available to us in the world of marketing. And this is what we're seeing on the ground with our couples. Okay, so hear me out. Your couples are also living in this marketing theme park world. The moment they get engaged, they're super excited. The next morning they wake up, they go on their phone, they think, oh, I'll just have a look for some wedding inspiration. The moment they write the words wedding inspiration into their phone, social media apps, they are going to get more information than they can process. They're going to get videos and content from wedding businesses all over the world vying for their attention. And that is overwhelming. And then we wonder why they ghost us. We wonder why they're overwhelmed. We wonder why they don't know what to do next. But that's why. So for me, we're living in a different world. It's not a funnel world. It's a theme park world. And we need to understand that and then understand how to navigate it.
As a wedding planner, you know how important it is to create detailed wedding day timelines for your events. But creating your timelines can be a tedious and time-consuming job. Until now. Because Timeline Genius lets you create beautiful, detailed wedding day timelines with ease. And it keeps everything you need on the wedding day in one central place. Here's how it works. First, Timeline Genius saves all your clients, vendors, and venues in your Rolodex, so you don't lose time looking for their information. And when you're ready to create a new timeline, you simply enter the key information for your wedding. Click a button, and voila! Timeline Genius magically gives you a customized timeline for your event, where all the details are laid out and the times are calculated for you. From there, you can easily edit your timeline by adding or deleting items, inserting images, changing font styles, and customizing everything to your liking. You can also instantly shift the times for as many items as you want. And when it comes to your clients and vendors, Timeline Genius lets you give them the highest level of service. You can send them tailored timelines, showing only the items they're involved in. And you can collaborate by inviting them to a mobile-friendly, web-based version of the timeline. You can even set text message reminders to automatically go out on the wedding day. And once you've completed your perfect timeline, you can download it or email it out as a beautifully styled PDF. And that's Timeline Genius, a smart software that will help take your wedding planning to the next level. Start your free trial today.
That is really interesting, very interesting and unique. Kudos for crafting that and articulating it. I'm going to just be transparent here. I'm going to push back some, even though I actually love what you're saying. You know Russell Brunson, ClickFunnels, I presume? He has this thing called the One Funnel Away Challenge. And the whole conceit of the challenge is you're just one funnel away. Like if you get one ROI positive, like this works funnel, you can lean in on that and you can transform your business. My wife and I, we did the course. I'm going to spoiler alert. We did not find one funnel that transformed our business, which isn't to say that it doesn't work for anybody. I love Russell Brunson. He's obviously done a lot, but I remember emerging from that self-education investment and thinking a couple things. A, I'm glad I invested in myself. I learned a lot. Russell's awesome. I'm a better marketing mind as a result. But also B, I kind of take issue with his framing that there's just one funnel you need to build. Like, because what's done it for me, and it's not like I'm Steve Jobs spiking the ball as like the consummate entrepreneur over here, but like to the degree that we have been successful in my current venture and past, it's it's a collection of things. The theme park that you're talking about, it's not just that one thing. There's a blog, there's a podcast, there's webinars, there's trade show, and it's kind of the gestalt effect of all of that. Now, at the same time, two thoughts. One, when you said something goes back to 1904, the contrarian part of my brain starts thinking, sometimes like the fundamentals just don't die because they're just like, there's something really sound about it. But also, I mean, I guess that in and of itself is kind of an interesting idea. But also, I don't think that you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think that you're saying there's no such thing anymore as a marketing funnel, because obviously there still is. You can run ads on Facebook, drive people to a marketing event, sell people. That's a funnel. Can you kind of speak to these sort of ideas that I'm tossing out?
Yeah, so I think when I'm talking about there being no funnel, we typically see a funnel in the traditional sense of like the more people you get at the top, they go through this linear journey and then they pop out at the bottom. But what I'm saying, particularly in our industry, the wedding industry, that journey is no longer linear and it's no longer predictable. Yeah. Okay. And so even the guy that's teaching about the one funnel, I guarantee he has multiple funnels to teach about the one funnel.
Right. That's the thing.
And he's going to be visible everywhere. And some people will find him on social media. Some people will read his blog. Some people will listen to his podcast. And so what I'm saying is there is no linear thing. It used to be, particularly in venues, but also for suppliers as well, planners. You'd get engaged and then, you'd go to the most local venue on your doorstep and go and inquire. Whereas now we literally have the entire world in front of us when we need to make a buying decision. We're not just going, oh, there's one planner in my town, I'll use them. Because every planner suddenly is in front of us and we're having to make choices and decisions. And as suppliers, we can't rely on just being the person next door anymore. We have to give people a compelling reason why they should choose us over anyone else.
I think it's brilliant, Becca. And I push back only to tease out like the sort of profundity of what you're saying. I thought about it like in reference to my company. One of the ways that we've effectively gotten customers is we will do a webinar. Like I mentioned, we'll have ads on social. People that don't know about us, they find out, they make their way to the webinar. And at first blush, one could say, well, that's it. That's the funnel. But a few things. First of all, it's not just that. And secondly, I never really thought about this. The walls of this so-called or supposed funnel are very porous, meaning people may come in, maybe they signed up for that, but they never actually came from the webinar, but then they go listen to a podcast episode, and then they get on a demo, or they catch us at Wedding MBA, like they're kind of bouncing around this theme park that you talked about. It's really, that's a really interesting, and I think that reframe, it kind of matters. But you tell me, like from a practical standpoint, let's say that somebody's listening and they're like me and they're like, wow, I hadn't really thought about it in this new paradigm. What's the practical takeaway? Like, how can I leverage this to get more customers?
Okay, so a few things. I mean, again, we could do 3 episodes just on this on its own. So I'll give you a few standout thoughts that I've got. So there's a few things. Number one, we need to make the buying journey as frictionless as possible. Again, we look at the big players in the world, the Amazons, the Apples. They're always trying to make less clicks, make everything easier for us to do. And therefore, that's the culture we're living in. So as wedding businesses, we've got to realize our customers are living in that culture too. All right. These days, I cannot even be bothered to leave my sofa to go and find my debit card to type in the numbers. I just want to click twice on my phone and pay on Apple Pay, and anything else is annoying, right? And so we need to think, how can we take friction out of our buying process? So one very simple thing is to look at, okay, if someone does find me on Instagram, is it really easy for them to take a next step? Have I told them what I want them to do? Have I made it super uber clear? If they go on my website, is there a clear path of, am I telling them this is what you need to do next? Book a consultation, click this button, because attention is short. Are we giving them the information and being transparent up front? Are we giving them an idea of pricing? Again, we could have a whole episode on that, but we need to make the journey as frictionless as possible. And often I speak to my clients and they say, my journey's, there's no friction there. And I'll say, okay, walk me through it. They'll say, all that has to happen is someone fills in a form on my website. Then they wait 2 days. Then I email them back. Then I ask them to fill in a booking form and get 10 more information. Then I make them dance in a circle, send me some date. I'm like, that is complicated. I could have bought 20 bazillion things on Amazon in like 30 seconds. So, okay, we're selling a bigger service. I'm being provocative, but we need to have that idea that this is the culture we live in this world. So how can we make a process so easy? You know, I don't know what you think about this. I'd be interested in your thoughts. But one thing I really hate is if I send someone a DM on Instagram and I get a bounce back that says, we don't check our DMs on Instagram. You need to send us an email. Or the other way around, where a client contacts them on Instagram and they're like, yeah, I'm really interested, but in order to find out if I'm available, you must leave and send me an email. Because we're putting in friction and barriers when we've actually got someone that wants to buy from us. Instead, let's just chat to them there and then, or make it really, really easy. If they want to send you a text, reply to them on text. Here's a thing. Young people under 25, a lot of them don't even check their email anymore. We got to embrace it.
That's funny. And just, yeah, you mentioned my thoughts on that. It just makes sense to me that you would meet your customer where they are, right? Like, and let that be the driver. Like, if that's the communication channel that they've chosen, why would you erect that barrier? And it's funny you mentioned Amazon. You know, people, political or whatever feelings people may have about the company aside, they've been effective. And and it doesn't get any easier. I mean, especially now. I mean, I remember back in the day, Amazon was like just books. I'm dating myself here, but you know, and it took time. Like now, it's like I'll order something, and then like at 4 a.m., it's on my porch. And again, I'm just, my own hamster is turning about like, and I think probably all of us are, I don't know if you see this differently, are deluding ourselves if we don't think there's any friction in our like marketing flow to purchase. But that's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of the first thought I have in terms of the
Mm-hmm.
marketing theme park. Let me give you another one. The other thing I think that's interesting in this overwhelming world is I think some of the basic stuff actually is standing out more. So instead of thinking, oh my goodness, that means I need to be noisier, actually thinking, okay, in a marketing theme park world, what stands out more than anything is word of mouth. Because online, it's overwhelming. Online, we don't know who to trust. And I'll give you another example of something. So I love going to Disney with my family. Now, I could watch 27,000 TikTok videos about what restaurant I should eat in Magic Kingdom. But if on this call, Eddie, you said to me, Becca, I was in Disney last week and I ate at this restaurant. It was the best thing we've ever done. My kids loved it. You know, whatever it was, then that is going to stand out to me more than all 27,000 TikTok
So true.
videos because I trust you. So
Yeah.
in this crazy world, word of
Wow.
mouth advertising is the most powerful form of advertising.
Wow.
So venue recommendations, networking, connections are much better and more powerful than anything else.
Damn, that's so true, Becca. You know, it's funny. I just signed up for this entrepreneurial coaching program. It's like a productivity program and life changing. Like just a complete reminder, you know, not to digress, that like when you invest in yourself, like it's hard to go wrong. And when you get it right, you're like, this is like the best money I've ever spent, right? In terms of ROI. And the funny thing about it, to your point, Becca, is if you look at the marketing presence, it's busted. Like, and they're charging thousands of dollars. And you would just never, like, I don't think, and I don't even want to, I almost don't want to mention it to denigrate the, like, I'm like, yeah, you wouldn't just go to their website or see the videos and just sign up. But my wife has a friend, successful entrepreneur. I know her. I trust her. She's great at what she does. And she was like, you have to do this project. Like so much so that I'm like, take my thousands of dollars because I trust that person. And it's funny because you're right. There's more signal and noise than ever out there in terms of like videos hitting my feeds and emails. And I'm awash. My inbox is flooded. But one person kind of going to the mat and saying, this is what you need to do is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, 100%. And it is always going to stand out. And actually, it's the lowest cost form of marketing and it's the most powerful form of marketing. And we neglect it a lot. So I'm going to give an encouragement to people listening. Like, what have you got in the diary where you're going to connect with people in person? Are you going to a conference? Are you going to a networking group? Are you just going to have some drinks? Are you going to go visit a venue? What are you going to do that's in person where you can build those relationships, build those connections? You know, the relationship you have with past clients, you're much more likely to get a referral on to someone else who's getting married than, again, any TikTok video. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't do social media. I do it, is important. But what I am saying is, let's not forget this really powerful form of marketing we have in the industry that doesn't cost us anything other than our time, and actually is going to stand out more than anything else.
So you are a step ahead of me, and that makes a lot of sense. I was just going to ask you, how does one lean into the idea of leveraging the power of referrals? Because and there's a subtle distinction, right? If I'm talking to somebody, and maybe what you're kind of saying at a higher level is that in-person interaction today is more impactful than ever. But there's a difference, obviously, between me being at a conference and selling myself versus another person, a past client, customer, whatever, telling somebody about me. Are you saying we need to ramp up both of those, or are you kind of looking at more of one rather than the other?
Well, the more people that know you exist, the more people you
Right.
can then have out there in the world
Right.
telling other people that you exist, right? So we need
Right.
to be willing to go out there. But, and here's the key as a business owner, and this is the ethos I live my life by. If we are going to be trying to connect with people in a meaningful way so they talk to us, talk to their friends about us and our products, we got to go above and beyond, and we have to approach that relationship with an attitude of service rather than an attitude of what can I get from this person, right? So venues, for example, we know venues can be good referrers, but so often people go to them with this mindset of, if I build a relationship here, then I'm going to get loads of bookings from this venue. And then it goes nowhere. Whereas if you go into that relationship and think, right, how can I serve this venue? So I had a saxophone player who was amazing when he was just starting out. And he basically just approached the local venues and said, look, I'm not looking to be referred right now. I'm just looking to get some exposure. You're putting on events. You're putting on dining. Like, I'll just come and play saxophone at any of your events this season, and let's see if people like it. And he was at every wedding show in our area. He wasn't paying a penny to go to it. The venues loved it because he was bringing a vibe, and he got loads of bookings out of it because people heard him play. And it was all because he went in with that attitude of, how can I give something to this relationship rather than how can I take something from this relationship? So when we're building relationships, when we're building connections with peers, with potential customers, we've got to think of it from a giving attitude rather than a taking attitude.
You know, it's funny, Becca, people that have really listened for a while to the podcast have certainly heard, like, I feel like you're touching on kind of like, if there is a secret to this thing, I feel like you're touching on it. And, you know, this is, you know, for what it's worth, just my perspective as somebody that's, you know, been in the trenches of entrepreneurship since like 2005 full time. Again, dating myself, but, you know, 3 companies in, and I'm just like, yeah, if I had at this point in my career to kind of pinpoint like what's the thing, and I feel like there are bigger cosmic implications of this. It's bigger than business. I think it's like why we're here on earth. We're here to serve, right? Like I think it's Muhammad Ali's like, service to others is the rent we pay for our time here on earth. Like, and oddly, when you truly embrace that, you end up getting more back for yourself. Like, find a way to genuinely, not just contorting yourself and being artificial, but to genuinely want to serve. And I just feel like it really comes back to you. That's my own theory, but it really resonates with me, what you just said.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And when you're different and you're giving and you're serving, people remember that, and then they talk about it to their friends and family. And that's how it works. So, for example, I checked into a hotel recently, and when I got into my room, they just left a plate in the room, and it just said "Welcome Becca" in chocolate. And it was a tiny act, right, of someone, of a hotel. Do you know how many people I've told about that hotel? How many people I've told about that story? How many times I shared it on social media? A tiny act of service can lead to a ripple effect. So if you're giving, people will be like, oh, you should talk to that Becca. Like, she came on my podcast and she gave so much. She didn't hold anything back. She was just willing to serve. And that's a much better mindset than if we go, oh, Becca came on my podcast and she kept saying, oh, I'd tell you about that if you bought my course. You know, that's not what it's about. Let's just give. and then we get stuff back in return.
It's funny. This other thing I did, Tony Robbins, my wife and I invested in his business mastery um, curriculum. It was great. It was awesome. And I just remember he said, over and over, he's like, it's not about having customers. It's about having raving fans, right? And when you do something little like what you just talked about, like at the hotel, like leaving that plate, like that's going above and beyond, and that becomes the thing. And I'm interested if you see anything different, if you want to rip off this, like great, but that becomes the thing that makes somebody excited enough about you and your service and their experience with you to go out and to tell other people. And you don't get that if you're just kind of checking the box. You get that when you wow somebody and you really invest in them. And you don't look at them. I think it's easy, probably easier for me it would be because like we have a more volume, whereas most planners, you're not doing like thousands of weddings. You're only doing, a couple dozen or whatever. But nonetheless, you can't see your inquiries or your customers as just like a number. Like they have to be like something that you're really investing in,
Yeah, I wish I had this. I wish I had this stat on me, but I have a stat from a wedding survey here in the UK from last year about the percentage of couples that felt like their wedding suppliers treated them like a number rather than as a person. And the stat was high. It was like above 60%. And I was sad about that stat for our industry. Because if couples feel like you've treated them as a number, they're not going to refer you on to their friends. So let's start at the basics. Let's give our paying customers the absolute best service and product that we can so that they rave about us to their friends who are probably also getting married soon. When I got married, then like every one of my friends got married in the next 5 to 6 years after me. So, that's a warm audience of people that may rebook you. So make sure you're not treating anyone like a number. When they're giving you money, go above and beyond. It doesn't need to be expensive. It doesn't need to be complicated. This is where systems can help you check in with people regularly, but give them a good level of service, go above and beyond, do something memorable, and then they will rave about you to their friends, and then you'll get that repeat business.
I love that, Becca. And it's crazy. I'm watching the time fly. It always does. I say this and I feel like deja vu. Every interview I look up, I'm like, wow. I love your book and the whole setup of, not everybody has the budget, the time, background, et cetera, to be a wizard at marketing. And you've given people a way to kind of tap into your brain if they don't have those resources. But I also know that you do work with people. Can you tell me a little bit more and tell our audience a little bit more about the work that you do when people hire you?
Yeah, so I do a couple of different things. So obviously the book is great for general, but if you want to get into the weeds of your particular business, then nothing's going to beat one-to-one. So I do one-to-one consultancy. I also do marketing reviews. These are really interesting where basically a business will pay me and I'll then go away and not talk to them and just review everything I can find out about them online, write it in a report. I ask them for their competitors. I do a competitor analysis and then I present it back to them. And that's a really interesting exercise as a business owner because we're so close to our baby that we don't always see the wood for the trees. And so I always say you have to be ready to hear it. But if you want to hear it, I will present back to you what I find and then give you recommendations of how to change it. So the book is great. If you want more generic stuff, I've got loads of resources and courses on my website. But if you're serious this year about having a personal experience, then working one-to-one on strategy or getting a review is the way to do it.
And do you work with people in the United States?
Yes, I do. I have clients all over the world. The beauty of online Zoom means it doesn't matter where we work. We can make it work. I have a client in the Czech Republic. I have clients in America. I have clients in France. It doesn't matter to me. If you want to market your wedding business successfully, these concepts work in different areas of the world. It's actually more about digging into that internal mindset and then pulling apart that data and getting some accountability.
And, we always tell people, and I've learned this the hard way over the years, that it's so important to know who are you out there to serve? Who's your ideal client, right? Your avatar, where there's less friction getting them on. And once they're on, they're going to be that raving fan because they're just tailor-made for what they do. Applying that on a meta level to you, let me ask you, who are you for? Like, who is the person, or what's the profile avatar of the person that, like, when they hire you, they leave doing backflips with a whole new perspective on life and business?
Okay, you're the person that feels stuck. So you know that you're amazing at what you do. You know you've got a good product. You've had clients in the past. You're probably not completely brand new. If you're brand new, just buy the book. So you've got a bit of a business, but you've got stuck and you can't work out what's not working. Maybe you haven't kept up with marketing trends. Maybe you feel like your website's a bit icky, but you just can't understand what's going wrong and you feel like you're banging your head against a wall. That's the perfect person for me. It's someone who's either a solopreneur or part of a bigger team, even a venue, but you know that something needs to change, but you can't work out the route forward and you need someone to untangle it for you and point you in the right direction. That's who I work with.
Love it. Spoken like a true, like somebody that actually practices what you preach. Like, I can tell there's a difference. You can hear it when somebody's just kind of loosely describing who they're for, but they haven't really dialed in and locked in on that. That you can just feel like the depth there. I have one more question, Becca, that I ask of every person that's been on since I started episode 1 of the podcast. If you could give one piece of advice to everybody listening right now, based on all of your personal and business experience, to help them as much as possible in their business and achieving their professional dreams, what piece of advice would you give?
Okay, without sounding cheesy, I am going to use the name of my book because it's what I think everyone needs to do. Done is better than perfect is the mantra you all need to live by. Stop planning to do reels. Stop planning to write blog posts. Stop planning to reach out to a venue and just get it done. Messy action is better than no action. And yes, we'll improve over time. But the people I see succeed are the people that listen to a podcast episode like this, or go to a webinar, or learn something new and then do some action. I always say we're not Netflix. We're not here to entertain you. This might have been a nice conversation, but ultimately we're here to educate you so you now go take some action. Even if it's messy action, even if it's not perfect action, it doesn't matter. Do it. The people that do, the people that ask are the people that end up having the success. So if you're someone that's listened to a lot of episodes of this podcast and still have done nothing different, let this be a challenge to you to go do something about it today.
Becca, you got the stuff. I can feel it when you talk. That is just cool. I love it. What a perfect place. And I told you in the pre-interview, I want people to get information and inspiration from this podcast. And I feel like you handed that out in spades. So thank you on behalf of our community. And let me just ask, if people want to reach out to you, what is the best way for them to get in touch?
So I'm on all the social media platforms at Becca Pountney, just my name. Go find me Instagram. I love a DM. Feel free to reach out. It is me still replying to my messages. It's not some VA or robot, so do reach out to me there. Obviously, the book is on Amazon. And if you've enjoyed my British accent talking about wedding industry marketing, listen to my podcast, Wedding Pros Who Are Ready to Grow. And Eddie, you should come on my podcast. We should get that in the diary.
Hey, we will do that for sure. And again, on behalf of our whole podcast audience, I just want to say thanks on behalf of also our Timeline Genius community. Thank you for being here. This was awesome, Becca.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.